Yes. Yes.
Call this meeting to order. Roll call vote, please.
Alphon,
Here.
Nystrom,
Here.
Richard,
Here.
Teven,
Here.
Melhouse.
Here. Okay. First item on the agenda is recognition of visitors. Ms. Stevens.
So I'm going to start out, in addition to last week having been Teacher Appreciation Week, May is also Board Appreciation Month. So I have certificates for each of you to recognize you for leading public schools through uncharted territory, which I think in uncharted waters, which I think is very appropriate given the past year or so. So just wanted to take some time to recognize all of you for the work that you've done, making some very difficult decisions in a tough environment. So thank you very much. And so for those that are unaware, board members, it's a voluntary position. They do not receive any payment. And I think that is that much more admirable that they tackled this challenge for the students of our district and do so purely on a voluntary basis. And many of you know how many hours went into board meetings alone, let alone some of the research that they had to do on their own. So again, just want to thank the board members for all of their work and efforts in helping our students and our staff.
Thank you, full board members, for all you've done this past year and through the uncertain waters, going through COVID. Hopefully we're at the end of it and then back to normalcy this fall.
I have 2 Doors Awards recipients that we would like to honor. So we'll start with Amy Chestnut, and I think Brad and Autumn, are you two going to speak?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you present this to Amy. Okay.
So speaking of uncharted waters, there was a few of those this year in our buildings, and so we have lots of different groups of different people that really make our schools run. And one of those that maybe isn't as celebrated as often is our substitutes, and they are critical to ensuring the work that we do in our buildings and when our teachers have to be out for various different things. So Amy is one of our most dependable elementary subs. We keep her busy as often as she'll let us keep her busy, which is pretty much every day. And she does a great job for us. In the 3 years I've been here, she's done a great job for us in all 3 of those years. This year has been especially interesting because I know for me, she's taken on 2 long-term subs, both of which have happened to be my online teachers when they had babies. So not only was she willing to take on long-term sub positions during the pandemic, but for online teachers, which is really uncharted territory, and just jumped into those, spent some time learning what online learning looks like, how that whole process works. He has become an expert now in online teaching and learning. So we're just really thankful in a normal year for the job that all of our subs do, especially Amy as one of our most trusted, valued subs, and especially for this year in helping us out with those. And I think did a long-term sub position for you, correct, Autumn, before the 2 online, before doing long-term sub positions for the 2 online.
Well, I mean, Amy's passed one time, I'm like, hey, you want to be an art teacher this year? And she's like, hey, why not?
Yes.
You know, so that's the awesome thing about Amy is no matter what we ask her to do, she does it with a joyful heart, and it's something that we can depend on in every situation. That's hard to walk into a class with kids and unknown, and she does a great job of that.
She has great relationships with our kids, which is really helpful as a substitute when you go in any classroom and they say, hey, Mrs. Chestnut. And that's a great way for them to start the day with somebody that they know and they know that cares about them. So thanks for all you do. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you for all you do. And I know that not only have you been helping in the substitute job, you've been helping on some of our other volunteer committees over time, and really appreciate all those efforts.
She actually escaped to track me to come to this, so yeah, she's kind of everywhere.
And then we have another Doors Award winner, and that would be Lindsay Hyman and Darcy Newcomb. I believe you were going to go ahead and present this. Come on over here so that they can hear and see
She loves
you.
this.
Yes, I know,
And if
she
I
loves
just
it.
give her a hug, she's really excited. For those of you that know, or don't know, Lindsay is our ed coordinator. Is that what it is? And she's really been amazing this year, in everything that she's done with the Edge. And I think because we're friends, I get involved with those projects more than other people, but I have seen those kids come out, they've interviewed me out at the pool, asked things about that. We all saw the video that she had to make of Page School and why we needed a new school. Currently, she's working on something that is at Capper Park, and came to the middle school and presented to Scott and I about what those kids can do. She's going to the park board meeting here in a few minutes for that. But, so those things are amazing, but as a mom, that's why I nominated her for this. My youngest is a wonderful child who had no direction, and he's graduating here, hopefully, in a few weeks. And he had no idea what he wanted to do. He had no idea where he wanted to go. I kept suggesting, he wasn't sure if he wanted college, but Lindsay hooked him up with our PE teachers, and he's been shadowing our PE teachers for a semester, all different levels. And the other day he said, I'm going to the little kids, Mom. I don't know that I'm going to like it. I said, go try it. He came home and goes, man, I kind of like those little guys too. So he likes it all, but now he has a purpose. He knows where he's going to go to college. He knows Lindsay's pushed him to take the ACT, to apply to schools. Mom couldn't get that to happen. And so he's going out of state. He's going to major in education, which I would have never thought he would do, but he really has found a passion for that. And that's really because of Lindsay pushing him into that. So in addition to all those wonderful things you see her doing out there on Edge, she's working with those kids every single day on simple things like that, that really, really matter. So.
Okay. On Thursday agenda, I'll ask over here, any modifications, deletion, additions?
Nope.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the move to approve the agenda as printed? Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Pritchard, Dr. Nyson, will move the second for the agenda to approve as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is the time set aside early meeting to hear from a delegation of person who'd like to address anything relevant to the board. Is there anyone here that I do not recognize? Over here, sir.
I'm going to take this off so you can hear me, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm Terry Mormon. I'm represent the 4th Ward City Council here in Boone. And the reason I'm here tonight is 2 council meetings ago, the last council meeting in April, we had a situation arise at council. I'm actually kind of leading the committee on the road for the new elementary school. And we had a little bit of confusion that night, and I said some things that weren't necessarily true. In my frustration with the process that was going on at the time, I said some things that weren't true. And I especially wanted to apologize to Jeremy and to Julie. You guys have been nothing but transparent and open with us, and we really appreciate that. And I in no way wanted to damage that relationship between the school and the city that you guys have worked so hard to build on. And so last council meeting, I apologized publicly because I did it publicly, and that's why I'm here tonight. So we are excited about the school. Our partnership and our pledge to you of $750,000 still stands, not going anywhere. And we will help you whatever way we can in other areas to get this thing done. So Again, I apologize. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't your fault. Again, with my frustration with the process, and believe me, in the future, I will choose my words more carefully. Okay? So thank you.
Thank you.
for hearing me.
Karen, please follow your good local schools and just, put in.
We're gonna get
Okay, I don't see any other people who are not on the agenda. Here, unless Mr. Hutchinson wants to speak. Okay, we'll move on to the routine business. Do I hear a motion to approve the routine business?
And those are two routine business, except for the bills, the current bills under general fund. Please pull out one for Pritchard Brothers for $339.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Hellman to approve the routine business as presented with the exception of on a bill for Pritchard Brothers for $339. Is there any further discussion of any individual item? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we have one more item to discuss.
Move to approve the bill for Pritchard Brothers for $339. Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Stevens, second by Dr. Knight, to approve Pritchard bill for $339. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Abstain. Okay. Motion passes. Now move to the presentation about the redesign phase and where we sit right now with the construction phase for our middle school, elementary school, sorry. Okay, we've got the entire side over here. Eric, I'll let you start. You can introduce everyone else.
And Eric, if you wouldn't mind coming to the middle, so that way people that are online can still see and hear your presentation, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you everybody for having us here tonight. I'll speak up. Speak up.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just do this.
Talk to the person right back there.
That's right.
All right. Thank you everybody for having us here tonight. Appreciate your time. What we wanted to do tonight is we have finished or completed the pre-design section or portion of the elementary school planning. And so with me tonight is Andrew Van Leeuwen, project designer. Over in the corner is Line Construction. And so what we want to do is we just have some information to share with you about the process that you've gone through, and then what this is going to lead to into the next stages from a logistics standpoint and meeting.
There you go.
So first of all, we always like to just give everybody credit where credit is due. So this is not just our team and Line Construction and not just your team. There's a wide variety of people that have been involved in all phases of this thus far, and they will continue on throughout the process. So just a quick acknowledgement for all the folks that are helping make this a possibility.
On the bottom left, you'll see there's a vision team of stakeholders from across the district that have been involved as well, which all of the things that we've done and we'll present tonight have been proceeded with that committee, and that team is going to help guide the design for the project. So we organized our time with, we organized our time with 3 different workshops. The first workshop we focused around the educator, so understanding what the educational needs are, how can we support educators in this facility. And then we went through a series of activities. The second workshop was focused around the learner and understanding what the learner's needs are. So we did some activities which we'll highlight here in a second. And then the third and final workshop of our pre-design phase was focused around the environment. So we started with teaching and learning first, and then figure out how we can create environments, what are the environmental needs within the facility to help create a space that can support the teacher and the learner. So in this first workshop, focused around the educator, we used some different cards. These are from learning connection cards, and the teams were tasked to find things that resonated with them. So we broke down into 4 groups, and they organized different learning connection cards. And we found common themes throughout. So the top left here talked about small group, small learning spaces. We have furniture environments. What are the requirements there? Teaching, spatial environments, and then the tools needed, and then safety needs. So these are a small sampling of the cards. There are probably over 100 cards that we had that night to go through. But it was really, really great to see that among the 4 groups, there was common themes with all of them. And those of you that were involved can attest to that too. It was rather interesting to see that there was already a lot of alignment and synergy, which was great for our team to see that there's consensus around what the educators need to have a successful space. At that workshop, one of the things we also did was we went on some virtual tours. So we looked at a couple of projects across the country that are focused around the early learners. This is a kindergarten center, so we walked through some of the spaces, the layouts, the organization of that building to help see what else was out there and how other districts have done things. This was an early childhood center in the Kansas City area. So this is a renovation project, so not all projects were directly aligned, but there's definitely lessons that could be learned. So how it's organized, how it's configured, the types of spaces see on the left, some of the imagery that the facilities committee could see and begin to observe. And then we also wrapped up the first workshop with a postcard of the future, which highlighted, I lost the mouse there.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
YouTube computers.
So which highlighted some of the words of phrases. So they imagine themselves in the year 2040. What are they seeing? What are they experiencing when they go into the space? So here's some of the words in a simple word cloud here that talks about what everybody's feeling: pride, flexibility, excitement for learning, natural light, inquiry-based environments. So workshop 2, as I mentioned, is focused around the learner. We did a short recap of the first workshop, and then we dove into our main activity, which was the day in the life of the learner. So we again broke into 4 groups. We talked about what does a day in the life of a student look like today, and we tried to think pre-COVID, what it was a typical day look like for learners. And then we tried to fast forward and imagine what we want that future environment to look like, what that future day will be for those young learners. So you can see we have different activities that we looked at, the different activities that the students will create and do. And then we had each of the groups create kind of a student profile. So these are characters or students created by the different committees, and you can see they talked about how are students using their day now based on these different activities, and then the outer ring is how they do it in the future. So you're seeing a focus on going from much more small group activities, focusing here on the large group as well. But you've seen a lot of common themes, which I think was really great to see from all the groups here, on how the students are using the space, what types of activities they're going to be doing in the future. So we had June, Henry, Lovebug, and Mark, our 4 students. So this helped our team to identify spaces. And as we look at the new construction of the new facility, how do we find spaces that support this outer ring of what we want our students to do and experience in the new facility? And then the very last activity at the second workshop was kind of an affinity mapping exercise, where it's taking Post-it notes and kind of rapid fire, write down words or key phrases that talk about the environment itself and what it would need to support that. And the words verbatim from those cards are listed below. But we organize those in categories around nature, outdoors, openness and collaboration, personalized, flexibility, creativity, and then functionality. So that was great, kind of segue into our third and final workshop for the actual built environment. So workshop 3 is focused around the environment. And when we started this workshop, we had taken the first 2 workshops and tried to establish some guiding principles. So these would be kind of a North Star for our project team. We want to be able to see these guiding principles in the design as it goes through. And we vetted these with the facilities team and made some modifications based on their feedback. But really, these 5 tenets, if you will, these guiding principles, is really what we should see as an outcome. When there's a fork in the road and there's a hard decision to be made, we need to look at these guiding principles and compare that decision to what this can do. So, discovery and development, flexible, adaptable, and accessible. Focus on health and wellness, naturalness and active, and then joy and pride. So these are the things that we should see as we start to develop and design the building, the built environment. And then we had a fun activity called a design charrette. These 4 groups, again, broke into teams and worked on a couple different charrettes. So they looked at it from a micro scale, looking at the environment, thinking about a suite of spaces or the actual school, and then we zoomed out and looked at the site. So this helped us understand maybe some organization, some adjacencies, and how things should be laid out and configured. And you're seeing here on the right just some of the pictures from the activities where they're using pipe cleaners and construction paper and markers to help organize and configure space. I think it was a good hands-on exercise to get the minds going and a great way to help them kind of communicate versus feeling like they have to draw a beautiful picture. It was about illustrating and demonstrating a concept rather than creating the beautiful end product. So some more pictures of the 2 different shreds we did there. And then we did some exit tickets at the end where we showed, we asked a couple questions. We wanted to understand 3 must-haves in the school and then some critical adjacencies for what should be located. These are some of the outcomes that we saw in our exit ticket that rose to the top, and talking about what spaces should be adjacent to each other, and then what space or what are the must-haves in the facility. So a lot of great information over the course of the 3 workshops, which now the task for our team is to help create that into concepts and layouts. We will have an upcoming meeting with the facilities committee here before the end of school, so we can take some ideas and begin to put some things on paper. But we don't want to go too far without revisiting with that committee. We want to make sure we pin it up, throw darts at things, change things, modify things, and really solicit the feedback and listen. Because it's the goal of our team to help create a facility that meets your needs, not meeting our needs. So certainly this is just the groundwork for the process, but it is an important groundwork to set the stage for what needs to come in the future. So kind of in tandem with the workshops, one of the other things that we do is create a space program or a building program. This is essentially a spreadsheet that talks about all the spaces, types, quantities, and sizes that will be a part of this, because we're trying to hone in and define the overall scope of the project here. So it's broken out by different department areas. So it helps our team understand, based on the feedback of the workshops and based on understanding the curriculum needs and the functional needs of the space, what needs to be included as a part of this new project. So the program here talks about all of that. It gets us to an overall square footage for the building. And this is something that will be continued to refine and honed in with our team to make sure we have, as we get to the design, something needs to be a little bit bigger, something needs to be a little bit smaller. We know we have that flexibility to do that, but at the end of the day, we will stay within the budget that we have set forth. So this is again kind of a living document, but this is a stop in time, understanding where we're at as far as scope goes and what the plan is, so our design team can begin to take the ideas and build floor plans and site plans from that. And then we just included the site survey here as a part of the scope, just understanding the site configuration layout. Our team is continuing to look at that and beginning to understand the finer details of the survey report. And then the last section of this pre-design is logistics. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric to help walk through some of the next steps.
So as we talked about before, we've got, we kind of break the whole project down into segments. That's partly to manage it for you, but also for us to manage it and the ideas and the information that we need. So we've already gone through the bond planning and the campaign portion, that culminated in March. And so what we've done is we've gone through all these here in the pre-plan, programming, and visioning stage. So this is setting the direction for your entire project. So we're down here at the board meeting this evening. Right there. And then what we're going to do is moving out to schematic design. So this actually just set this here a few moments ago. So May 27th, we're going to come back. Our team is working on doing some building layouts and testing based on what you just saw from those workshops and taking all that information together. And we'd like to review that before your staff meets for the summer. And then we will continue on with our food service and building systems, mechanical, things of that nature, where we're starting to actually design and build the building. By the end of the schematic design, we'll come back to you in summer for another presentation just like this, where you'll get to see the fruits of those labors, and then moving on to the next section. In design development, that's where we're applying a lot more detail to things. All the major decisions for the building, we want those completed and done by the end of design development. So land construction can be very critical throughout these next two phases to help us collate all the information and basically have the entire concept of the facility at this point. What we're working towards is to utilize the year and the schedule, the environment to our advantage. So we're trying to put all this information together so that we can get to a what I'll call pre-grading contract or an early site package project that will allow us to take advantage of some of the later summer months in the fall to do some earth work while we are finishing up the technical details that we've created here in the design development phase into construction documents. And that's what we're doing, constructability reviews, dimensioning, specifications, all those things to further out. That gets us to in November. So we'll come back to you again in November. We'll ask you to establish a bid date, public hearing dates, and issue those out to the bidding community so we can take bids by the end of this year. And then everybody can take a breather for the holidays. And then as this phase complete, my construction crew will really kick in a high gear, and that's really kind of take it from that point and contractors and working through the procurement process of acquiring all the materials and things that they will need so that they can hit the ground running out for the building point, because we will want to have already completed some of the earthwork stuff this fall. Okay. So that is a short presentation on where we are at today and what we've been doing since your bond referendum passed. And again, thank you for all the committee members and things to provide the input. That's key. And that was something that you told us early on, is that you wanted a lot of collaboration and input, and not just kind of being insular in how we do it. So hopefully we illustrated and shown to you how we are doing it and how we will continue to do that over the course of the next few months. Any questions?
Any questions from the board members?
How are we looking on the site rent package for this fall? Pretty promising.
I think we have promised for that. So there's still, so we showed you there's the site survey that's been completed. We are having some wetlands information that is being worked on right now. And so we should have that information within the next 30 days. That will help us influence a few more things. And then that meeting on the 27th, that will get at the end of this month, will be key in getting the layout and everything with the facilities team and making sure we can progress with that.
I know you aren't to that point yet, but will there be contingencies or something in place or fees if it's not completed on time?
Sorry, the question was contingencies if the project is not completed on time. We have not looked at that at this point. And that'll be something that we work in conjunction with Lang on how we, how we structure that. But our intention is to complete that so that we can have kids move in and be ready in August of 2023. That's all I'm going to commit to at this
That's right.
point.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if there's another pandemic or something, all bets are off. But
Any other questions from board members? Okay, hearing none, Eric, thank you very much for the presentation. Look forward to seeing you back here frequently in the next few months' time.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have graduation class approval.
Yeah, so you should have before you the list of graduates, and I would just simply recommend that you approve the list that you were provided to graduate. So we're excited for their futures and excited that they're going to be able to have post-secondary success. Oh, you know what? I did not look told. We know that off the top of our heads. Okay. Yeah, I didn't count. Sorry. It's a smaller class size anyway, but yeah.
There's about 20 from the blue base, about 135.
Mhm.
And the regular.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I had one other word about the graduation. Is there a motion here? Move to approve the graduation class list as written.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Mr. Pritchard, seconded by Mr. Stevens, move the class of 2021 graduates as presented to the board tonight. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the summer school plan.
Yeah, actually, Dr. James is going to share with you our district plan for summer school this year. It's short and sweet.
It's really hard. So, our summer school proposal really focuses on this high school for the school year. With our elementary and middle school students, at this point, we are still really just identifying what are those two gaps that we want to try to recover. And
Yeah.
Speak
Speak up more.
Okay,
That's what he
sorry.
wants. Yeah.
So we are really trying to, with that elementary students to and middle school, really determine what are the gaps and what are the best ways to fill those. So their high school students, it's a little bit different because of the need for credits and to stay on track for graduation. So that's really where the focus of our summer school efforts for this school year are, is to help kids recover credits that they might need or units that they might need towards graduation to stay on track. 8.5 program we've seen lots of success with. When we implemented it with COVID last year, we didn't do that. We want to put that piece back. We think that really helps our kids transition from middle school to high school. So we have that in there. And then some years we have some summer school for futures and some years we don't, depending on what they have. And there's a couple of kids at futures that could graduate and finish in the summer if they have a couple extra weeks of support. We want to make sure we provide that for them, especially given the pandemic. And that's really why we have that need this particular school year. So the proposal there is just to meet those needs at the high school and really help keep kids on track for graduation.
Now, prior years, we've done something elementary, science, gardening.
We didn't do an elementary program last year. We had intended in February before things kind of went off track to do just a literacy focused boost program as they came back to school in August. To be quite honest, our kids and our teachers just will break. Summer is very short this school year. Trying to identify exactly what needs to be filling by doing that. Data is still rolling in at the end of the year this spring, and so we decided at this point that didn't feel like money well spent because we weren't exactly sure what those needs were we were trying to meet, and it gives us a little bit more time with kids to help those. So that's what
Appreciate that. I just asked because the parents are going to be asking us. So I wanted to be out.
Well, and I think we are joined by several of our conference schools in doing the same thing and delaying our extra assistance to students, because we will have extra assistance available, but we want to make sure it's the right work and not just more of something that isn't necessarily going to benefit our students. And so that's something that we really took a long, hard look at. You know, do we put the investment in the summertime when, quite honestly, staffing was going to be an issue? And as well as, would we have the attendance from students when it would appear that people are kind of ready for a little bit of a break? So we're really aiming toward doing some extra assistance during the school year versus during the summer. So that's kind of where we're headed with our direction. So when people want to know, well, how are you going to make up for any lost learning? First of all, we're really proud of the fact that they didn't have a lot of lost learning this year in our district because we were able to be here. But for those that still need that, we will have that. We also have looked at, even though it's not outlined as formally here in the other levels, we have had the same conversation that we had about 8.5 with regard to our transition for our students that are online coming on site. We are planning for that, and because there are some unique needs that those students who have not been able to be on site previously, some of them will be in the buildings for the first time when their peers were there before. So we are still planning for those activities without it being a specific summer program. So I want you to know that that is something that we're still planning for and adjusting for.
I find it interesting here, the mission to the bond table. The fact that the online learners have much higher percentage of steps. I think it's something that we all knew. We have some online learners thrive and blossom that we all knew. It's gonna be tough for a lot of kids.
Mine is from first semester, I think we shared the data.
Is that first semester?
This is our first semester,
Okay.
yeah. So, but we put that out there as kind of a guesstimate. We're not done with the semester, so it's hard to know how many kids really will have that need for credit and recovery. We put some additional things in place, there's like these are, but things like their wing time we put back in during the day, during second semester, and some additional after school support for kids who have some failures in the first semester. So we anticipate this is less below, but we also use that to say, we know that we do have some kids here that are probably still recovering from first semester, and we want to make sure that these people aren't back up to second. Great, anything to add to that?
Thank you for that. Yeah, hopefully if there's an intervention we put in place this semester, we'll see that 90 number go down a little bit. Naturally, your seniors, like the things until they graduate, so we'll see that numbers down too.
Thank you very much.
I think one more thing to remember within that, you know, as we're getting ready, we're finishing up testing and bringing students in for that. The reminder of those students that have been online, that haven't done that, are being averaged into all of our students. We are completing that process. We have brought all those students in to do that. So I can just put out that data to see who actually needs the help and the best. But I know we're starting to look at data to see what that looks like. You know, that might not be pretty averages for what that looks like. So
We have a number of students who are with us for a portion of the year, some for the whole year, some in and out, various talking to their families, so it'll be interesting. But we'll be bringing that to you.
Okay, because really, the younger kids are pretty big role.
We have
Involved in it.
yeah, they're all daily, or they're fast daily, we've seen that growth. We're doing spring facts right now. Some of our ISAC data at middle school and high school, our Iowa statewide assessment, you can see some preliminary results. So this last week, at the end of the week, we kind of started to dig into some of those. Franklin is still doing their Iowa assessment testing, and just looking. We have 10 students that are remote learners who still need to do their Iowa assessment test remotely, but most of our kids came into the building and took that test. So we're getting a good handle on where kids are into the year, and we will be using that data to plan for next year.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Now, we need a motion to approve this from the school plan.
I'm going to refer to the school plan.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Nystrom, second by Mrs. Stevens, to approve the summer school plan as presented. Is there any further discussion, questions, any of the board members? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the summer school plan as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Next is the K-12 curriculum purchases.
So Dr. James will go ahead and speak to the purchases as well.
I will. So we have two content areas that we bring to you tonight. Secondary science, our elementary team did not do an adoption for materials. They are currently working on some alignment with their content for science with some of the English language arts new curricular resources that they have that really get into using rich text with kids to build that comprehension. And we foresee we want to be really intentional in the materials that we select that will also pair well with our reading and writing. So they're doing some work over the summer that leads into that. So I'll bring elementary to that another time. But secondary went ahead and their materials are also a year older than our elementary, so they were needing to go through that process now. Middle schools where the bulk of our budget sits. Our middle school team was very thoughtful in reviewing a variety of different materials. They really were interested in the TPI science that aligns with what we currently have now for K-5. They saw the need for that vertical alignment of materials and that consistency for students at the middle level. At the high school, they jump around between courses, so that consistency in publisher and in those materials maybe is less of a factor. But at the middle level, it really is for that vertical alignment. So they selected TPI science. Their review found that one fit best with what they saw in NGSS standards. Also, when Iowa adopted those standards nationwide, they're a grade band, but Iowa put the standards into specific grades. So when we look at a lot of different materials, it's hard for our middle school teachers to think about teaching with those because here's one textbook, but it might have something for 6th grade, but something for 8th grade. So this particular set is more of a module. So they could say, this book is something that can go to 6th grade, this book fits what we need in 8th grade, and it allows them that flexibility that they really need with the way our state has adopted those standards, and also that vertical alignment that they're looking for. The one thing that they are requesting, that's perhaps different than what we usually bring, is usually we're looking to adopt class sets of textbooks, the physical books that sit in the classroom. We use those in class as more of a resource and not usually, students aren't usually taking those home. We've kind of gone away to every kid carrying that back and forth from their locker. However, that digital access for students comes at a pretty pricey cost, but that gives access to material that we can use to really help get kids into that nonfiction text and use it in a rich way. When you can't count on every kid, you might all have a Chromebook, but if they don't have a digital license to that textbook, you can't quite use it in the same ways to teach those note-taking skills, the highlighting features, the annotating that text, and they obviously can't write the textbook in the classroom. So there are some features with that online licensure that when we don't adopt enough licenses for every kid, we're not able to really use. And as we've been going through our preparations with the middle school and really looking at our standards, there are some things with that nonfiction writing and reading that we think we can pull in with these resources that the middle school science team really felt would be beneficial if they had that STEAM license for every kid, and they would use that nonfiction text to also build their reading skills too. So that's the bulk of the funds is there for middle school. High school felt like a lot of their text were in a pretty good place, and they needed text more as a secondary supplemental resource. So you'll see less proposed there from the high school secondary team as they had unpacked standards. They felt chemistry was probably their biggest need. And then the other texts were ones that they could use to supplement a variety of courses. They could go with principles of advanced science. They also used some pieces in physics. So they really were looking for more resources and some things from the National Science Association that would help support them in their teaching, but not feeling that they needed that textbook resource as much as the middle school did. That's science. If you click on math, our math team did curriculum adoption 3 years ago. We've gone with illustrative math that is an open source. We've been really excited with the results as we've implemented that in 6th grade through up through Algebra 2. But this particular school year, and in the course handbook that we brought to you a couple of months ago, we had some new additions to the high school course offerings for math, just trying to encourage that 4th year of math and keeping kids in math, but giving them some different options and a variety. And so the team has picked out, it's a small amount budget-wise, but just some additional materials that will supplement 2 new courses, construction math and computer-aided math. It's using some spreadsheets and different formulas to keep kids engaged with math standards, and then also just some additional pieces to supplement our probability and statistics and our current pre-calculus.
Okay. very much. Question?
For the fifth grade, are they like the bridge between fourth and fifth? They have access to everything, are they gonna stick with the phone?
It's tricky because they're standard stick with elementary and they sit at our middle school. Their current materials are that TPI science, and so, in talking with the 516, they felt like, as elementary looks at more different trade books or things that will support them in science and TPI that they currently have at fifth grade fits really well with this sixth grade adoption.
Digital access, is that newer this year then, or for this one?
It is. In the past, we've had maybe if we bought 30 textbooks, we get 30 licenses, but obviously we have more than 30 kids at the grade level. So the ways that we can use that digital text is really limited because not every kid has a license. They all have a Chromebook, they could access it, but we don't have enough licenses for the kids to save their stuff to their drive, annotate and take notes in those and take advantage of some of the other digital features, videos, for instance, that they can use to go back or relearn or watch something if they missed a class. They just don't have access to that unless you have a license for every kid. It comes at a premium cost, but if you don't have the access, you can't use those pieces, and we really think that will be beneficial for our kids to get them more into tech. As a teacher, it's hard to assign something to read if you think you might run out of time in class and I don't have enough books to send home with my kids. But if you know that they all have access after they leave your class, you can really plan and use those resources in a different way.
This would be an ongoing cost.
This is a 6-year subscription. So this would take it to our next curriculum.
Good. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion here.
I would move to approve the K-12 curriculum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Alphen, seconded by Dr. Nyström to approve the K-12 curriculum request as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the Proctor textbooks.
So this is an annual funding that's provided by the state for parochial school textbook purchases. Trinity Lutheran is the only parochial school that has requested textbooks this year. So what you see before you is their textbook request, and I would recommend approval.
Any questions? Is that a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's been moved to approve. That's your second. Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nyström to approve the Trinity Lutheran Church on non-public textbook order. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Next, YSS Student Assistance Program renewal.
Yes, so this, you'll see two here. This is the first of two. This is the memorandum of understanding between YSS and the school district. This is just a continuation of the agreement that we currently have, and I would recommend approval.
Questions from board members? Okay, is there a motion to approve this? Move to approve the YSS memorandum of understanding student assistance program. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Pritchard, second by Dr. Nyström to approve the YSS memorandum of understanding student assistance program agreement. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Next, YSS Family Liaison Therapist Contract.
Yes, so this is the actual contract to have the YSS family liaisons with our district. Again, this is another continuation. This does not have an increase to cost for us, which was encouraging to me. So I would definitely recommend approval.
Okay, any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the YSS Family Liaison Therapist Contract?
I move to approve the YSS Family Liaison Therapist contract.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Pritchard, to approve the YSS Family Liaison Therapist contract as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes unanimously. Next, the IJAG memorandum of understanding.
Right, so this again is a continuation of what we've had with IJ. This is something that we are discussing in the future of possibly expanding, but right now this is simply a continuation of our memorandum of understanding with IJ as it currently stands. But I do want you to know that as we look towards the future and we continue to expand our K-12 work-based learning programming, that is something that we will be discussing later down the road with all of you, the possible expansion of IJG. So I definitely would recommend approval of the IJG memorandum of understanding as it currently stands for another year.
Can we modify this halfway through the year? If we go further?
Yeah, there's a stipulation in there somewhere, but I think it's going to take us a year to really design that together. And we've started those conversations, but that's something I just wanted to, as we renew this year, I wanted you to know that we are looking at possibly expanding in the future.
Okay. Any further questions? Is there a motion?
We approve the MOU for IJAG.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, move on Mr. Alphen, seconded by Mr. Pritchard, to approve the IJAG memorandum of understanding as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the UE agreement approval.
So the UE and the district came to agreement with a 2.25% increase. And I can't remember what the transportation was, Mitch. I don't see it up there in my book. Bring it up. And we did have an increase to activity bus, I believe to $15.
$15 per hour.
$15 per hour. So those were the changes. And I would recommend approval of the UE contract.
Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the UE contract? Move to approve the UE agreement contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, move on Mr. Pritchard and narrowly seconded by Mr. Alphen to approve the UE agreement as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next, sanctioning of girls wrestling.
So this is something that was actually discussed across the state last year and trying to see if we could sanction girls wrestling. But I don't believe that it came to the board tables for all of you last year. And so what we're asking is that we write a letter of support for the sanctioning of girls wrestling. We have several girls that participate that are very active, and that would be something that I think for our district in particular would be beneficial if they would actually sanction it as a high school sport. So the letter that you see in front of you is a draft letter of what we'd like to be able to send to the Iowa Girls High School Athletic Union with our support for sanctioning girls wrestling.
Discussion. There's one comment I think we need to have Brett's name on this.
It's on there.
It's on there, it's just down below.
Okay, sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Hearing no discussion, is there a motion on this issue?
I move to approve the sending of the sanctioning girls wrestling letter to the Iowa Girls High School Athletic.
Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nystrom, to approve sending the letter to the Iowa Grove High School Athletic Association on the sanctioning of Grove Wrestling. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the Brett Meyer leadership contract.
So this is a proposal to have Grunmeyer Leadership Services contract for the principal opening that we have after your approval of Mr. Byam's resignation this evening. And what I would want people to understand about this particular piece is this would look it's going to be different than the superintendent search in that the superintendent search, obviously the Board of Education is the entity that ultimately hires the superintendent, whereas when there are personnel within the district, that's lies in my, with me as the superintendent. This would simply allow this search firm to help widen the net and be able to help with some of the legwork that is necessary, as well as that because we are in May right now, wanting to expedite the process, and then also providing, like I said, just the legwork and the structure so that we can move forward expeditiously in hiring a new high school principal. So I would recommend the approval of Grunmeyer's Leader Services to assist in that search.
And I move to approve the Grunmeyer Leader Services contract.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Pritchard, to approve the Grunmeyer Leader Services contract for the search for the high school principal position. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the superintendent's report.
So I have a few things. One is just want to again congratulate all of the recipients of the BEEF grant award winners that we recently had. We had just under $27,000 worth of awards presented that were awarded to Boone schools in particular. And we had a number of staff write grants, and they took a lot of time and effort in doing so. And we're just really excited with all of the opportunities that the foundation is providing us by providing those grants to our staff. And then we will also be doing some publicity around the fall grants that were granted as well, because we weren't able to do that previously. So just a shout out to BEEF and the work that they do to help support the students of our community. Very much appreciated. Also with the projects that I had spoken with all of you before with regard to the gymnasium and a building for homeschool and futures, we will be having some interviews with architects, and we'll be bringing that before you at a special board meeting on May 17th at 6:30 to determine who will be assisting us with those projects, if that's something the board would like to continue with. And there was one other thing I was going to talk about, and now it just left me, but I just wanted, and then, oh, I know, just prom. I was going to update everyone on the prom. It went fantastically. I think that the staff did an amazing job of organizing that, being able to spread the students out really made a huge difference. And it did not feel like we had over 250 students here, and we did, but between the auditorium and the gymnasium and the cafeteria and cafe au lait spaces, It really was very well spread out. The kids had a great time, and I think it was a huge success, and give all the credit to the high school staff and administrative team for that running so smoothly, because it was a really great event, and very happy that we were able to move forward with that. So I wanted to make sure, since we've had a couple of meetings where we attended to prom, I wanted you to know that it ran with great success. We were blessed with great weather. I mean, it may be a little windy for some girl fair, but other than that, it was beautiful weather, and could not have been happier with the outcome for our students and that particular event. Also, just all of the events we've been able to have in the spring that we weren't able to have last year. I think our community and our parents and our kids are so grateful for all of these opportunities. So again, thank you for helping us make sure that could happen for our students, because that's what we're all here to do, is to provide those opportunities. And it's been a nice spring of celebration for our students. We had National Honor Society recently. I mean, just a wide variety of celebrations and more to come. So if you have an opportunity to attend any of those events, I would encourage you to just so that you can see the excitement and satisfaction that our students and families have.
I know people appreciate getting to watch the very much.
Yes.
A lot of people traditionally
Mm-hmm.
they go and watch that
Mm-hmm.
for injuries to the building. So a lot of people watch.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank all school officials and all the teachers for all the hard work. These projects this spring, and I believe this is all going to come on Sunday at Memorial Day weekend, graduation is at 2 p.m., is that correct?
2 p.m. Yes.
Okay. And my understanding is there's going to be a little parade coming up from the racetrack.
I do not believe that we have the ability to do the
We're not doing
parade.
that.
I'm not very confident on that now.
Okay.
No, I do not know that we have confirmation from
Stand by.
the city. Yeah. We can guarantee we have graduation at 2.
On the football.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
I believe the rain is just this backup plan is rain. It's in the gym, that's what I got. Yep. Instead of trying to find another day. So the part of the conversation around that was we could pick another day, but then it could rain that day too. So we decided to stick with that day, since a lot of people have family coming in. If we stuck with the day, at least they would be able to celebrate with their families on the day that they had planned.
Our intention too is hopefully be closer to Friday. There are people forecast to look like, let people know for things a little bit new.
Would there be any way that the forecast listed that to be able to switch to Saturday to Sunday? Looks like a storm rain on Sunday.
I think we're using the sound system through like church, correct? Or
Yeah.
prior to graduation.
Right, and there's on Sundays too, and their backup plan is the gym as well. So we're utilizing the same sound system, so that's why we're staying on that day.
Okay.
Last year we had that echo through ours, so hopefully it's going to roll through.
They were gracious enough to extend that offer, and we accepted.
Sounds very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna take about 5 minutes time out here. It looks like we have a couple closed sessions to do.